Can have you all take your seats. Before we call the meeting to order, I would like to read the city's land acknowledgement. The West Hollywood City Council acknowledges that the land on which we gather and that is currently known as the City of West Hollywood is the occupied, unceded, seized territory of the Gabrieleño Tongva and the Gabrieleño Quiche peoples. I'm officially calling this meeting of the February 18, 2025 City Council meeting to order at 6:05. And will Ari Strashnoy join us to deliver the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks, Ari. City Clerk, may we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Councilmember Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Hang.
Here.
Councilmember Meister.
Here.
Vice Mayor Heilman.
Here.
Mayor Byers.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Terrific. City Attorney, will you please provide us with a report of the closed session?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. The City Council convened a closed session this evening to discuss one piece of business listed on the posted agenda. There were a few pieces of written public comment that were submitted on the agenda item, but no members of the public present to speak on the item. The Council discussed the one item of business and took no reportable action. The closed session concluded at 6 p.m. this evening. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. City Clerk, are there any changes from staff to tonight's agenda as we move into agenda approval?
Yes, Mayor, just to reiterate for members of the public, item C1 has been continued to a date uncertain.
Terrific.
There are no other changes from staff.
From staff, do my colleagues have any changes? Oh, Councilmember Erickson, ready to go.
Thanks. I'll start from the back, potentially. F7, Sister Cities Program.
I have comments, but I can make them under council member comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
The WeHo Loves Local Program, expansion of new gift card program, F6.
I'd like to hold that for discussion.
F4, annual Juneteenth event. Great. F3, West Hollywood Design District Street Pole Policy Update and Approval of a Licensure Agreement between the City of West Hollywood, and I won't read any more. Great, and then I'm going to try an F2 as well, the Sunset Strip Street Pole Banner Policy Update and Approval. Great, and I don't know if I have any more I do. D1, an ordinance of the City of West Hollywood approving amendments to section 10.28.050 of the Municipal Code. Sounds great.
Did you say F5?
I did not, no.
That's his item, but
Yes.
I would like
Okay.
to move that to consent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Terrific. So seeing nothing else, I have moved to consent item F2. Sorry, let me get there. F2, the Sunset Strip Street Pole Banner Policy Update and Approval of License Agreement. F3, the West Hollywood Design District Street Pole Banner Policy Update and Approval of License Agreement. F4, the annual Juneteenth event. F5, the Arts Programming and Recognition of Black History Month 2026. F7, the Sister City Program. Is that correct? Terrific.
And what about F1?
I'm fine with that one.
Okay, so
Almost. Okay. Seeing no other changes?
Motion to
I actually have a procedural question for the city attorney. I just wanted to ask real quick
Sure
for clarity.
thing.
Madam City Attorney, I know it's been precedent that if a council member wants to hold an item, it's possible, or to remove an item, but normally if it was requested, they would need 3 votes to approve an agenda, correct?
In order to approve the agenda, you need 3 votes, a majority of the City Council. But
Well-
what's your specific
Well, my question is if 3 council members have given verbal acknowledgement up here to say, yeah, we can move that to consent, but one person likes to hold it, we've normally done that out of tradition, but without actual procedural rules, right?
Yeah, the courtesy has been that if one council member has questions, to keep it on the agenda so that it can be heard in the regular course of business.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion to adopt the agenda in a second.
Councilmember Hang?
Almost all votes cast. You cast your vote on the. Oh, almost. Awesome, all votes in.
Thank you. And the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to LaVine Act disclosures. City Clerk, I believe you have a comment.
Yes, I do. So for items F2 and F3, which were moved to the consent calendar, they are not subject to the LaVine Act under California Government Code Section 843085B. So as the council looks at the items on the agenda for tonight to make their disclosures, just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Terrific. With that, do my colleagues have any other LaVine Act disclosures to report tonight? If you're looking through the agenda? No?
Nope.
Okay, seeing nothing. We'll move on to adjournment motions. Do any of my colleagues have adjournment motions?
I have one.
You have one? Okay, Councilmember Erickson, we'll have to start with you.
Thank you. I would like to adjourn tonight's memory of Muhsin Hendricks, who is the world's first openly gay imam who was shot dead in South Africa this past weekend.
Thank you very much. I have 3, so forgive me for a little bit of verbiness, but I'm going to get started. First, tonight we will adjourn in honor of Donald Shoup, a distinguished professor of urban planning at UCLA who passed away on February 6th at the age of 86. Donald Shoup's groundbreaking research and decades of scholarship in the field of land use planning reshaped the way cities approach parking, transportation, and urban design. As a faculty member at UCLA since 1974, he influenced generations of scholars, students, and urban planners. His work, particularly landmarked in his book, The High Cost of Free Parking, challenged conventional thinking and sparked a global movement towards parking reform. Shoup's work illuminated how cities' reliance on free parking spaces and excessive off-street parking requirements were contributing to traffic congestion, sprawl, pollution, and housing costs, ultimately harming urban environments. His innovative ideas led to widespread change, with over 3,000 cities adopting some of his suggested reforms. His contributions extended beyond academia as his research gained acceptance and recognition worldwide. Shoup's legacy continues to inspire and shape urban planning practices, and his influence will be felt for years to come. Beyond his academic achievements, Shoup was a beloved figure at UCLA and a mentor to so many. His contributions to the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs and his leadership of the UCLA Institute of Transportation Studies cemented his place as one of the foremost experts in the field. Even after his retirement in 2015, Shoup remained an active and engaged member of the UCLA community, eagerly anticipated to teach his renowned parking class this spring. Donald Shoup's work will continue to inspire future generations of urban planners, and his impact on the world of urban design will endure. As we reflect on his remarkable legacy and life of contributions, we extend our deepest condolences to his family, colleagues, and all those who were touched by his wisdom and vision. Next, tonight, we adjourn in memory of Tahiri Broome, a 29-year-old Black transgender woman who tragically lost her life to gun violence on the morning of February 9th in Southfield, Michigan, while visiting from Detroit from her hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. She was known by the nickname of Tokyo. According to her social media, she enjoyed pretty things, was a self-described shopaholic, and unabashedly earning money to buy things. She was a fan of Nicki Minaj and Rihanna. She loved Forever 21 and Hot Topic. She was a vibrant young woman who enjoyed life. Her favorite aunt, Patricia Bender, remembered Tahiri by saying, "My baby is sweet, pure, giving, humorous, and will do anything for anyone, and shines a light so bright you'll see it shine forever." Our family is really hurting from this loss, but justice will be served. Tahiri's name will live on forever. May Tahiri's light continue to shine in the hearts of all who knew her, and may her memory inspire us all to work toward a world that is safer, more inclusive, and more compassionate for everyone. Our thoughts are with Tahiri's family and loved ones during this incredibly difficult time. And finally, tonight we will adjourn in memory of Sam Norquist, a 24-year-old transgender man whose life was tragically cut short under circumstances of profound cruelty. Originally from Minnesota, Sam moved to New York in September 2024, seeking new beginnings and connection. His journey, however, led him into a situation marked by unimaginable abuse and suffering. Sam was reported missing on February 9th. The subsequent investigation revealed that he had endured over a month of relentless torture before his life was taken. 5 individuals have been charged with second-degree murder in connection to his death. His death, along with Tahiri Broom's death, underscore the vulnerabilities faced by transgender individuals and the urgent need for societal change to protect and uplift marginalized voices. Our thoughts and deepest condolences are with Sam's family, friends, and all who have been affected deeply by this tragedy. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to presentations. We have 2 presentations this evening, and first we're going to just recognize Ari, again, who led us in the pledge tonight with a certificate. So if my colleagues will join and celebrate Ari for a great pledge of allegiance tonight. Okay, and next we have a presentation for the American Heart Association. I'll begin. Whereas cardiovascular disease remains the world's leading cause of death and disability, impacting millions of lives every year, and in the United States alone, more than 350,000 people experience cardiac arrest outside of a hospital each year, with approximately 70% of these incidents occurring at home, and tragically only 1 in 10 people end up surviving. And whereas each year, more than 23,000 children under the age of 18 experience cardiac arrest outside of a hospital in the United States, with nearly 40% of these cases being sports-related. And whereas cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR, when performed immediately, can double or even triple a person's chance of survival, yet only about 46% of those people who experience cardiac arrest receive CPR from bystanders while waiting for emergency responders to arrive. And whereas effective solutions such as awareness campaigns, CPR training, the implementation of cardiac emergency response plans, and access to automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, have been proven to save lives, but more education and accessibility are needed to empower communities to respond effectively during cardiac emergencies. That was all messed up, so sorry. And whereas this learning and properly performing CPR gives bystanders the confidence to act swiftly in cardiac emergencies, increasing the likelihood of survival, and by prioritizing immediate action, calling 911, delivering high-quality CPR, and using an AED when available, can save more lives. And whereas the American Heart Association has set an ambitious goal to double the survival rate from cardiac arrest by 2030, transforming bystanders into lifesavers and ensuring that everyone, everywhere, is prepared and empowered to be a vital link in the chain of survival. Whereas the City of West Hollywood commends the life-saving efforts of organizations such as the American Heart Association, whose unwavering commitment to combating heart disease and cardiac arrest has advanced public education and inspired people to save lives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of West Hollywood hereby recognizes the importance of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke and supports the efforts to double the survival rate from cardiac arrest. The city hereby proclaims February 2025 as American Heart Month in West Hollywood and encourages all residents to engage in raising awareness, promoting heart health, and participating in CPR and AED trainings to save more lives. At this time, I would like to invite our representatives up from the American Heart Association to the dais for a photo and to accept this proclamation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this proclamation today. I am here today both as a marketer, as the CMO of Foot Locker, but most importantly, I am here for my passion as a board member of the American Heart Association. You rattled off all the things that I wanted to bring to light today, which is number one, more awareness, and number two, how do we get more people within West Hollywood to not only advance the importance of heart health, but also put meat behind those bones and actually do something about it. So I encourage all of you here to not only know your numbers, but to also check our website for many ways that you can contribute within the community, but most importantly, take care of your heart, take care of your health, eat well, and treat others kindly. On behalf of the American Heart Association, thank you so much, and we are very honored for this very great award. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with Care for Our Heart in mind, we will move on to public comment. The City Council values your comments. However, pursuant to the Brown Act, the Council cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. The public comment period is limited to 20 minutes with 2 minutes allocated for each speaker. The public comment period is to address the City Council on consent calendar items, other agenda items, if the member of the public cannot be present at this time, that the item is considered, or items of general interest within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Another period is also reserved for general comment later in the meeting for those that could not be heard at this time. Public hearing testimony will only be taken at the time of the hearing. If you signed up to speak on both consent calendar items and general public comment, as well as an item that was moved to the consent calendar, you may take this public comment period to speak on the consent calendar items. You may also sign up to speak during the second public comment period for your general public comment. Lastly, speakers should not bring any items to the podium other than a prepared written statement or writing materials. Madam City Clerk, how many public speakers do we have?
We have 12 individuals in chambers and no one in Zoom.
Okay. I will go ahead and read the first speakers. I have my list here. So Jonathan Wilson, we'll start there, followed by Christopher Clapp and Genevieve Morrill after that.
Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I just want to say thank you for moving forward with the Juneteenth event. I'm very grateful for that. I'm coming to you, Jonathan Wilson, as a member of society, a resident within West Hollywood, as well as a business owner in West Hollywood. One of the things is, yes, we appreciate this. Please note that as we do planning, there may be a need for additional dollars. We're not too clear about that yet, but we're keeping things moving. The reason why I want to say to keep the idea open is that my company actually wanted to give some dollars. UCLA also wanted to give dollars to the Juneteenth event, only because it's such a big moment. And right now, in this time that we're in with the federal government and some things that are changing, maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I did. Some of the things that are changing out there, but the climate out there is really, really difficult for some people. And I think as we move away from DEI in some circles, there's going to be a need to uplift people in other ways. And so I just want to make sure that we're open to different ways of thinking. It was complex, I guess, to have money come from my company and for money to come from UCLA at this time for this event. So just please keep in mind that just be open to future ways of thinking as we go for the next 4 months. So thank you again for pushing this forward. I'm very grateful, extremely grateful, and thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Christopher Clapp, followed by Genevieve Morrill, followed by Greg Rain.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Byers, Vice Mayor Heilman, and distinguished members of City Council.
Can you pull the mic down a little bit?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll start again. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Byers, Vice Mayor Heilman, distinguished members of City Council, and all esteemed city staff of West Hollywood. My name is Christopher Clapp. I live in Los Angeles, and I have operated a business here in West Hollywood, Petrosian Restaurant and Boutique on Robertson. I am currently the Vice Chair and Treasurer of the West Hollywood Design District. I just want to reach out and say thank you. Thank you for your support of our local community, specifically the item tonight, F3. The banner program is absolutely essential to our operations. I'm inspired specifically by city staff Laura Byrie, Laura D'Ambrosia, and Paolo Kesperdit, and I thank them for their guidance and continued support of our programming. So yeah, just a heartfelt thank you, and I look forward to being of service to the constituents here in West Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you. Genevieve Morrill, followed by Greg Rain, and Craig Williams after that.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Genevieve Morrill, President, CEO of the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, and good evening to all the members of the public and the staff. I ditto what Mr. Clapp said. I want to thank you, our appreciation for both the Business Improvement District's banner program licensing agreement. It also protects all of us, you as well as us, and it's an agreement that hasn't been in place for all these years, but I think it's welcomed, and want to thank Laura Byrie and Paolo Kesperdit and David Wilson for all the work that they've done on that. I also want to thank Mayor Byers for the WeHo Loves Local Extension Program and Tom Keeley and his team at Visit West Hollywood. And we talked about it today at a board meeting. The Chamber is also launching a WeHo Gives Back program. And we think combined with the WeHo Loves Locals, the city, the Chamber, Visit West Hollywood can all drive traffic. And we have some case studies from other chambers recently at a conference that my staff just went to last week about local programs that have chamber that bought like $20 gift cards for restaurants and gave it to the customers if they visited there. And I think they spent $15,000 and it generated about $80,000 into the businesses. So we do think that this has legs. It has some strength and power if we all combine efforts. So you can go to WehoChamber.com/WehoGivesBack for that pledge. We're going to launch it on March 1st, and we have some media as well. So I just want to thank you for all that because right now we did do a survey and we did get a good response from the businesses, and they are down about 25 to 50%. So while we weren't hit with the fires, I think the world thinks we're all burning or we have toxic air. So we're trying to say, come into West Hollywood, we can help you, we can help the fire victims and first responders and give back to them and give back to everybody and our fellow businesses, but we all have to work together to give back and patronize our businesses. So thank you.
Thank you. Greg Rain, followed by Craig Williams, Todd Hallman after that.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Byers, Vice Mayor Heilman, esteemed City Council and City staff. I am Greg Rang, resident of Los Angeles and the current Executive Director of the West Hollywood Design District, which is both a pleasure and a privilege to hold that office. I spoke via public comment on items B11 and F3 already, and I am simply here so you can see my face and hear my sincerity when I too say thank you for your support of the Design District and our programming. I followed instructions and did not bring anything to the dais, but I do have with me maps for tomorrow's Art Walk, as well as promotional materials for Design West Hollywood, which is March 4, 5, and 6. It was originally a 2-day event, but through community engagement and support, we have extended it to 3 days, and we look forward to making that an annual event for the city and the community. Thank you so much. Appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Greg,
Oh, Craig.
if
Greg,
you want to
sorry.
give those handouts to me, I can make sure the council gets them. Thank you.
Next speaker is Craig Williams, followed by Todd Hallman and Sarah Adolphson after that.
Good evening, Mayor Byers, Vice Mayor Hallman, and City Council. I'm Craig Williams, and I have the pleasure of being a longtime West Hollywood resident, and I wanted to speak in support of an increased budget for the Juneteenth celebration for 2025. We're calling it an event, but I'd like to repurpose that to a celebration and a demonstration of our commitment to inclusion and diversity. There are 3 things that I know for sure: that Black people are entrepreneurs, Black people do spend money, and the east side of West Hollywood has a lot of vacant storefronts. This is an opportunity for West Hollywood to embrace and engage a demographic that can accomplish those goals. And I think that the Juneteenth celebration will help to do that. Thank you for indulging.
Todd Hallman, followed by Sarah for the Human Services Commission.
Good evening, Mayor Byers, Vice Mayor Heilman, and council members. Todd Hallman, 30-year plus West Hollywood resident, Public Safety Commissioner, but tonight I'm speaking as a resident on behalf of Juneteenth. Thank you for approving the budget. I have been very open and honest with all of you how disappointed I've been with this event over the years. I think this is a year for us to get it right. Social justice is on it. I know they have a subcommittee. They are meeting. They probably will need additional funding because we need this to be a jubilant Juneteenth celebration, especially with what we're dealing with in this country today. Social justice is very important to us, and I'm also going to ask you to really stand behind this advisory board, not only for me as a Black queer man, but for all of us, because their work is going to affect all of us because of the climate we live in. We also need to work on our diversity as a city. People of color coming on Friday and Saturday nights to West Hollywood does not diversity make. We need to do a better job and make West Hollywood more inclusive. I give a lot to this city. I love this city, but at the end of the day, I'm a queer Black man without a tribe in this city. I don't want the next generation to feel that way. So please be there for social justice. Please be there for this event. We need this. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Sarah Adolphson, sorry, I keep getting that wrong in my head. Thank you, and David Nash after that.
It all works. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Sarah Adolphson. I'm here on behalf of the Human Services Commission. As you know, the commissioners attend city council meetings to share information about vital social services provided by the city and its partners. Tonight, I want to highlight the importance of cervical cancer awareness and preventative services. While cervical cancer rates have declined, significant disparities persist. This year, an estimated 13,000 women in the U.S. will be diagnosed, and more than 4,000 will die from the disease. Women of color experience the highest rates of cervical cancer, with a death rate nearly 80% higher than white women. Furthermore, transgender men face barriers to screening, including discrimination, lack of provider knowledge, and discomfort, resulting in lower screening rates. Cervical cancer was once a leading cause of cancer deaths for women, but thanks to increased prevention and screening efforts, the mortality rate has been reduced by half. When detected early, survival rate is 92%. Even more encouraging, over 90% of cervical cancers could be prevented by the HPV vaccine. So what are we doing? The City of West Hollywood partners with several nonprofit agencies to provide crucial and life-saving services, including Planned Parenthood, offering essential reproductive and sexual health services, including screenings such as pelvic exams and pap smears, the Audre Lorde Health Program at the LA LGBT Center, providing identity-sensitive health services, including cervical and other cancer screenings, and importantly, they offer self-collection test options for transgender men, along with pap smears and HPV testing. And then finally, the Saban Community Clinic offers a range of services, including OBGYN checkups, pap smears, screenings, lab tests, family planning, birth control, and cancer screenings. So if you're due for a screening or you need supportive services, please visit weho.org/human services or call 323-848-6510. Thank you.
And Sarah, on behalf of all of us, I just want to offer our condolences to you and your husband on the loss of your father-in-law. And if we could, I completely forgot that in my notes, but we'll be adjourning in their memory tonight as well.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to us. Thank you.
Next speaker, we have David Nash, followed by Jacob Shaw and Tony Solano.
I think I heard my name. Yeah. My name is David Nash. I'm a 26-year resident of West Hollywood. Good evening, Mayor Byers, Vice Mayor Heilman, and City Council members. I'm here tonight to thank two people who are very special to me in the city of West Hollywood. First, Larry Block, who owns Block Party. He's been gracious enough to allow me to have a small art show in the back of his store through the end of the month. I greatly appreciate that opportunity. Both Larry and I share a disability. We have very limited vision. And not just because it's me, but to renew and refresh your awareness of how people with disabilities can surprise you with their creative abilities. I'd like each and every one of you to stop by and take a look at my art show in the back of the store. The very first customer I had, first paying customer, I must say I greatly appreciate, was Cortez Jordan, the manager of our aquatic center. He has become not just an asset to the city, but a friend to me, and I greatly appreciate that he purchased a picture. And I gave more thought to how much I appreciate Cortez, and I looked up the salaries in the city open list, and I noticed that his salary is about half of Danny Rivas's and less than a quarter of the city manager. That's an extensive operation, those two pools up on the fifth floor here. And I think not just because he's been kind to me, but because of the quality of work that he supervises and the importance of the aquatic center, I'd like to see Cortez Jordan get a raise. So thank you for listening to me. Please come to my art show and do give more money to support the Aquatic Center and Cortez Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacob Shaw and Tony Solano, or just Tony?
Yep, just me. Jacob
Great.
didn't make it. Good to see you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to make this public comment. It's very simple. I have partnered with UCLA Health. Jacob Shaw and Tropicana have graciously offered their place of business to host a blood drive. There are some new changes that have come about. So we're very excited to bring this about this coming Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If there's anybody that would like to make donations to first responders, we are hosting a table for that as well. If anybody would like to discuss potentially working with us to host another blood drive within the city of West Hollywood, our great city, I would love to have that conversation, and I hope to see some of you there. Thank you very much. This coming Friday from 10 to 3. And flyers around front. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker is Michael Nuttall, followed by Annie Jumpacente, and Steve Martin will conclude our public speaker list. If anybody else is hoping to speak, please get your comment in. Thank you so much.
Hi, my amazing city council. I'm back to talk about trash. One of the things that I like to talk about is trash, but currently I'm at 650 bags that I've picked up in the West Hollywood community, in the Tri-West area to be specific. And the one thing that I found that I'd just like to educate people about is that of the trash that I find water bottles a lot, which is probably no surprise to anyone. But what I find double that amount are the caps to water bottles. So my ask, or something to keep in mind, is that when we're making contracts or doing parties or events, the water bottles that have the caps that stay on, instead of fully coming off, they can pop it off a little bit, are much better than all the plastics that end up in our street. So just something to keep in mind when we're buying water bottles. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about was that orange turd in the White House. The National Park Service removing the T from the LGBT plus at the Stonewall Monument, I think is repulsive. They're trying to erase the T from LGBT plus. And I just think with the voice that we have, the voice that I have, that I want to stand up and say that that part of the community, the entire community we love, we cherish them, and we see them, and we won't turn our backs on them, and thank you.
Thank you. Annie Jumpacente, followed by Steve Martin.
There it is, thanks. Yeah, there was actually a news article written, why did you all censor me last time I was here to speak? You wouldn't show my face. I know why, because Chelsea, I told you right before I gave public comment exactly what I was gonna do. You knew exactly the public comment I was gonna give, and you told the camera not to show you my face. How fucking dare you? Yeah, Michael, thank you for your speech and saying that you stand with the T and LGBTQIA+. The problem is, though, is in this city, I've now had to, I have been attacked every single weekend just for waving the progressive pride flag around the streets. People tell me that flag does not belong here. Why are you waving it? What even is that thing, that flag? What makes you think you could wave it around? Why are you a coward for not showing your face just because Hallam and I both agree we should be wearing masks? Did anyone catch that protest this weekend on Santa Monica Boulevard and Crescent Heights where, trans people were very upset that the city's not doing anything? It's been a trans sanctuary city for far too fucking long, and you haven't done anything to strengthen that. Like you are allowing the federal government to come in and just take us out. I mean, what outrage was there over the ICE signs that were, on Santa Monica Boulevard too? They're coming for us, and you're just gonna allow it to happen. Do something to strengthen protections for trans people. We still can't afford to live here in a trans sanctuary city. None of us can. This is not a sanctuary city. This is just not. It's a facade.
Thank you. Steve Martin, I believe you'll be our final speaker today.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I guess it was about 500 years ago that the Pope decreed that the sun revolved around the earth. And it just seems odd that in 2025, we would have a president who would suddenly decree that we're all simply binary. There's only two genders, men and women. And for some people that might be amusing, but it really impacts so many people and tries to trivialize so many people. But I think we need to take a long view. I'm part of that generation that grew up illegal. There was basically nothing about our existence that we were allowed to do. And despite all the laws, as a young man, I was persistently, perhaps stubbornly, illegal. But the laws did change, and we did make progress. And what I think is most important is that despite being in a very long fight, is that it was most important to remind people of our basic humanity. And that's what's so important in this particular fight with the trans community, because we have so many people on school boards, in Congress, and in the White House, and in the federal bureaucracy who are really trying to eradicate and trivialize people's lives. And, I heard a great interview from a military person who happened to be trans, who was so effective in talking about what a wonderful opportunity they had to serve, to work in the military, and how much support they had from their comrades in arms, and how wonderful it was to serve as in the Army and as to serve the U.S. people, or serve the people of America. And I just think that we need to be there and remind people that we are talking about friends, neighbors, and people with real humanity.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. I believe that concludes our public comment. Anybody show up in Zoom or any other slips come in?
Of additional speakers in chambers or Zoom.
Terrific. Then I believe we'll turn to the staff's table over here for our city manager's report.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. I will be providing the City Manager's comments from the staff table today. Happy Black History Month. February is Black History Month. It's also the time when we provide our annual update on the city's equity and inclusion initiatives. The city is continuing with our DEIA initiatives regardless of the direction that the federal government is going at this time. Joining me is Jamaica Carter, our Equity and Inclusion Officer. She'll be providing a brief presentation of the city's equity and inclusion efforts over the last year. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and community members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Jamaica Carter, and I serve as the Equity and Inclusion Officer for the City of West Hollywood. Tonight, I will provide an overview of our equity initiatives, highlight our vision for an inclusive city, discuss our partnership with GARE, the Government Alliance for Race and Equity, and outline the steps we are taking to strengthen equity within city operations. I will also share updates on our draft city organizational equity statement and discuss what lies ahead. As we shape our vision for equity within our city, we recognize that equity is not just an idea, it's an essential framework for how we operate as a city. We envision a city where all community members can thrive, regardless of their identity or background. Our goal is to lead in creating policies that are truly inclusive and equitable, ensuring that every individual has access to opportunities, resources, and representation. Our vision is important because it serves as a guiding framework for our work. When we prioritize equity, it creates a stronger, more connected community, and a strong vision can inspire collective action around shared goals and will continue to shape our city into a place where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. In 2020, we joined the GARE network. GARE is a dynamic peer-to-peer learning and practice network dedicated to advancing racial equity in government. This created a foundation for our racial equity work during a critical time and providing staff with the tools to deepen their understanding and implement strategies for advancing equity in their work. The importance of our partnership with GARE cannot be overstated. The equity challenges we face today are just as urgent as they were 4 years ago, and even before that. Addressing structural inequities requires long-term commitment and action, and GARE provides essential support for embedding racial equity in our government systems. Through training, coaching, and strategy development, we can better align our efforts with best practices across cities and ensure sustainable progress. We also have GARE team goals. The GARE teams are made up of staff from various divisions, and they have been making significant progress over the past few years, and we will continue to support these efforts by providing citywide training, division-specific training, coaching support, long-term strategy development. This is important because without intentional action within the organization, inequities will continue to persist. And it's necessary for our infrastructure to address these challenges to ensure that racial equity is not an afterthought, but a foundational principle in governance. Over the past few months, we have taken a deep dive into the equity landscape, engaging with divisions to understand their efforts and identify opportunities to enhance and expand their impact. Through these conversations, several key themes emerged: equitable resource allocation and access, ensuring that fair distribution of city services and opportunities for both staff and the community, inclusive language and communication, fostering clear, accessible, and culturally responsive messaging, internal and community DIA education and training to ensure that we equip staff and community members with the knowledge and tools to drive meaningful change, collaborative and community-centered engagement, partnering with residents to co-create solutions that reflect and serve our city's diverse needs. These insights are key to guiding our equity efforts. And over the next year, we will remain focused on embedding equity into all city functions. We are committed to focusing on equity strategies aligned with broader city strategic plan goals, an equity action plan driven by community input, continued training for staff, elected and appointed officials, and also community members, as well as community equity initiatives. Furthermore, I am happy to share that equity is not just an aspiration for the city of West Hollywood. As we see here, our commitment to equity is reflected in ongoing initiatives that drive meaningful change. From our engagement with GARE to centering equity in public safety and health initiatives, addressing disparities through responsive community training and support services, we are taking action. These efforts go beyond statements, create real change and lasting impact across the city. Last year, we began a collaborative process to draft a citywide equity organizational statement. Through staff input, group discussion, and shared perspectives, we created a statement that reflects our values and aspirations. An organizational equity statement serves as a formal commitment to equity and inclusion, guiding our decision-making and fostering trust. It unites staff, leadership, and community members around shared values and drives collaboration towards a more inclusive environment. I'm going to go ahead and read the equity statement. The City of West Hollywood is committed to fostering a thriving, inclusive community where all people have access to opportunities, resources, and representation. We recognize that equity is a shared responsibility and an ongoing practice that informs our policies, programs, and services. Rooted in our foundational values of inclusion and advocacy, we acknowledge that systematic barriers and historical injustices have impacted marginalized populations, including BIPOC, LGBTQ+, displaced, disabled, and aging communities. We commit to actively dismantle these barriers through practices and systematic change that prioritizes meaningful engagement, resource distribution, and empowerment for residents and visitors alike. This includes empowering our city staff through equitable opportunities for development, decision-making, and active participation in shaping the city's future. Through transparency, accountability, and collaboration, we will address current and historical injustices and work continuously to build a city where everyone is seen, heard, and supported. Together, we strive to uphold equity as the foundation of our policies, practices, and vision for West Hollywood's future. A strong equity statement is important, and it provides clarity and accountability. It serves as a framework for decision-making and ensures that our actions align with our values. It helps reinforce our commitment to inclusion and serves as a foundation for continuous improvement. So as we look ahead, we know that equity is not a one-time effort. It is a continuous process that evolves with community needs. So it's critical to keep these goals in mind. Equity as a continuous commitment, collaboration and shared responsibility, sustainability and adaptive strategies. By maintaining our commitment, fostering strong community connections, and adapting our strategies, we ensure that our city remains a model for inclusion and progress. Our work in equity and inclusion is ongoing, and its success relies on continued commitment from city leadership, staff, and the community. Even as we face external challenges, including efforts at the federal level to undermine and discredit DEIA work, it is imperative that we remain committed. Equity is not a political trend. It's a fundamental necessity for a thriving and inclusive city. By continuing to prioritize these efforts, we protect the rights and well-being of all. Together, we can create a city where individuals are valued, empowered, and included. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Jamaica. Just one other announcement. WeHo Reads will be presenting Power and Progress during Black History Month. This is an online presentation via Zoom and YouTube. It will be February 26th from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. For more information, please visit weho.org/WeHoReads. And that concludes my comments, Mayor.
Thank you so much, City Manager and Jamaica. We appreciate the presentation tonight. We'll move on to the fiscal impact on the consent calendar. City Clerk, what is the fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar?
Thank you, Mayor. The fiscal impact on tonight's consent calendar with the addition of items F2, F3, F4, F5, and F7 is $988,968 in expenditures, $102,750 in revenue, and $6,584 in waived fees. We do have a motion and a second to adopt tonight's consent calendar.
Terrific. And
the motion passes 5-0.
Amazing. So noting item C1, the public hearing has been continued to a date uncertain. We'll move on to legislative item D1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Hollywood approving amendments to section 10.28.050 of the Municipal Code regarding utilizing the parking credits pool. Thank you to our staff representatives for making their way to the table. Whenever you're ready, will you please introduce yourself and present the staff report?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. I'm Jennifer Alkire. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Development, and I'm going to give a brief overview of what this item is all about, and then I'm here with Bill Bortfield and Vince Garino, who are going to help us answer any questions you may have. So we don't have a PowerPoint, so I'm just gonna go. The parking credits program was established in 2012, and at the time it was a tool that was used to help businesses that wanted to expand or property owners that wanted to lease their tenant spaces to other types of businesses, to allow flexibility for that and to allow our commercial corridors to flourish and thrive. At that time, additional parking was required for those types of changes, and so that was a tool that we used at that time. Since then, in 2018, the city lowered parking requirements for many of the commercial uses and changed how and when new parking requirements were applied for small conversions and where those things were required. And in 2023, the state adopted AB 2097, which prohibits the city from applying minimum parking standards to new projects. And so now we have, because of those changes, we've got more tools in the toolbox to help businesses expand and to help those tenant spaces be used by different types of businesses. So the parking credits program is not as critical, and in fact, now we have a certain set of businesses that pay the fees for parking credits because they're required in their conditions of approval. And we have new businesses that come in and they aren't required to pay those fees because they're not required to have parking credits. They're not required to provide that off-street parking. And so in order to try to make those equal and provide equity to the different types of businesses that are longstanding and new, the easiest and most straightforward way to go about that is to just eliminate the fee associated with those parking credits so that nobody has to pay that extra amount. We did think about changing the conditions of approval to not require the additional parking, but that takes a lot of extra steps on the part of the business owners. So while that may be a long-term solution over time, at this point in time, it presents an administrative challenge, and it presents extra steps for those businesses that maybe aren't equipped to do that, to go through those steps with the city. So that's what we're recommending at this time, is to just eliminate the fee and move forward. And I and the team are here for any questions.
Terrific. Do any of my colleagues have questions to start? Councilmember Meister.
Yep. Thanks, Jennifer. So the fee, as it's even showed in the staff report, went towards the parking improvement fund. So how then do we improve? How do we, have funds then for the parking improvement fund if we don't charge for parking credits?
So I'm going to pass that question on to my partners from the parking division.
Hi, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Vince Garino, Parking Services Manager. That is one of the impacts that it will have. We'll have to figure out how we're going to address that revenue shortfall.
Okay. And then my other question was, the program required staff to do a parking credit survey, I believe, every 6 months. When was the last time we actually did that survey?
It was before COVID. We haven't had the demand for the parking credits, so it hasn't been necessary to do the survey because we have less and less businesses utilizing it.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Well, those are my only questions. I might have comments, but I don't want to, I don't know if there's public speakers.
I don't have any public speakers on the item. Vice Mayor Heilman, did you have comments?
I had sort of one related comment. I know that when we did the parking credit program, it was utilized fairly frequently around here with the understanding that the parking structure here would be available for people. I have come in on several occasions where it's very difficult to find a parking space at all in the parking structure. And I've raised this previously, but the overflow in the library doesn't always work either because we have so many spaces that are not utilized or not able to be utilized because we have the devices there. And if there aren't valets or people there to assist, you can't utilize those spaces. So I'm completely supportive of the item, and I appreciate you bringing it forward, but I hope that you will look at what is causing those kind of impacts, because they're impacting people who want to utilize the library, utilize the park, and I think some of it is people who are employees of other businesses, not to mention the PDC, where they charge substantially more for parking than we do. So maybe that's something that needs to be looked at. That's all.
Any other questions? Go for it.
How do we monitor and police the 5-story parking structure, to follow up on Vice Mayor Heilman's comments? So specifically, if you park there, you can walk into the library, and can you still get validated for that, or do you need to be in the library lot? Have we fixed that little ticket snafu that I realized when I was when I worked here at City Hall?
So we don't, the validations for the library only work in the library garage.
Great. Are we, or have we implemented a better valet program on the 5th floor? When do we offer valet up there on the top floor?
Typically during council meetings, if we have the demand.
Has there ever been a need to implement it or add it during the weekends when we see more individuals driving to the dog park, but driving in general and parking there? Would it be beneficial to have a option like that exist on Saturdays and Sundays?
We can look into that. One of the challenges is that it tends to be the folks doing the valet, or the folks coming in don't like to use the valet typically, but we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is I think any of us that know how to park and where to park in the city know not to park in the 5-story parking structure when we need to. It's very nice. I'm appreciative of it. However, I think if there's ways that we can increase the opportunity for people to park. I know the weekends are very busy with a lot of our events, and so the more accessibility we can have for people to park there, it's better, but that's just a general comment.
Councilmember Meister?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to suggest that we have some type of parking needs assessment study done for that parking garage, because, and maybe you've done it, but now that the ARC has opened and programming keeps increasing, we are seeing that it is harder and harder to park in the 5-story garage. And I remember when Oscar Delgado was here, and we had a project come before us that wanted to reduce their parking by 100 spaces. And, at that time, no one from staff said anything about, well, maybe we'll need those spaces because of ARC. But the truth of the matter is that we probably did need those spaces. So I think we need to see numbers around the parking garage and what the needs are, especially as we keep increasing programming at the ARC.
Thank you, Councilmember King.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to note that cars are getting bigger too, and I've noticed that in the parking lot. It's hard to park when cars are just getting bigger. Trucks are getting bigger. People are driving them and parking them in there, taking over more than one spot, 1.5 spots. So that's something that can be looked into. It's something that we can control, but cars are just getting bigger.
Vice Mayor, I see a motion.
Yeah, I was going to move the item with the direction that's been given to investigate the issues of parking shortages and in the 5-story parking lot, and also looking at the issue of valet and when we utilize it, and also looking at the library parking lot and see whether that's properly configured for maximum use. So.
Thank you, and we have a second on the table. Are there any other comments or questions from my colleagues?
I have a question.
Sure.
Does your motion include the idea of a needs assessment? I mean, it sounds like it.
Well, I wasn't authorizing them to go and hire a consultant to do a needs assessment, but to investigate. And if they do need a consultant to do a needs assessment, then they would come back to us with that.
Terrific.
I'm trying to not go too far afield from what was actually agendized tonight.
So I guess I would just ask, do you need a consultant to do, I mean, you usually do parking studies all the time. I mean, the parking division.
There we go. I was having trouble with my microphone. We do some of the surveys internally, yes, but in this instance, I think we would want to go out and get a consultant.
Could we bring that back as a different agenda item?
Yeah, we'll look into it, and if we need to come back with an item for a consultant, we'll do that.
That'd be great. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table. I believe we're prepared for a vote with the direction included by Vice Mayor Heilman. Terrific. Motion passes. Thank you so much for your presentation. We'll move on to E, unfinished business, item E1, the mid-year update on fiscal year 2024-2025 operating budget and progress on work plan priorities. Good evening, whenever you're ready.
Okay, while we're waiting for our PowerPoint to load.
It's on there, you just have to close out of that.
Oh, thanks. There it is. One second. Thank you for your patience. My name is Christine Saverit. I am the assistant to the city manager. With me tonight is Melissa Lindley, the budget officer, and sitting at the dais with you, of course, our city manager, David Wilson. We will be presenting a report to you on the FY25 mid-year budget update, and Melissa Lindley will be doing the presentation for you this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Is that on?
I don't think that's...
Okay. Good evening. I'm happy to be here this evening to present the city's mid-year budget. We'll start by recapping last fiscal year and then dive into the current fiscal year, including where we are mid-year and our projections for the end of the year. We'll also update you on some proposed organizational changes, then touch on our departmental work plan priorities, and look ahead to the next budget process. Let's begin with last fiscal year. All of the amounts in this table are rounded to the nearest million. FY24 was another successful year financially. As you can see from this chart, we're providing some historical context, starting with FY20 and FY21, which, as you'll recall, were significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. You can see the revenue surge in FY22 and FY23 as we rebounded. Some of that growth was due to recovering from the pandemic, and some was thanks to new revenue streams like Measure E sales tax and our digital advertising programs. Our adopted budget for FY24 back in June of 23 was $151 million. We made some adjustments throughout the year, ending with a revised mid-year budget of $153.5 million. The final results were better. Our actual revenues, shown here in blue, came in at $161 million. That's $7 million above budget. And we spent less than anticipated, with actual expenditures of $147 million, $6.4 million below budget. This resulted in a healthy surplus of $14 million. While FY24 was a strong year, it's important to note that revenue growth was more moderate than the previous 2 years. Our biggest revenue sources, sales tax and hotel tax, saw slight dips. We also had a temporary waiver of business tax certificate renewal fees, which impacted revenues. However, we saw growth in property taxes, permits, and interest earnings, which resulted in an increase from the previous year of $0.9 million. On the expenditure side, we saw increases across all categories. This reflects the return of services and events that were deferred during the pandemic, along with some key investments, which included the first year of field operations for the care team, increased support for the Pride and Halloween events, an economic study, marketing support for local businesses, and some one-time capital expenditures, including construction and pre-development costs for the Holloway Interim Housing Program and the log cabin renovation. Now let's talk about the current fiscal year, FY25. The city's financial position remains solid. Our FY25, we adopted a budget of $161 million for both revenues and expenditures in June of 2024. Looking at the mid-year numbers, which are July through December, we're right on track. Revenues were $72 million, which is 45% of the original budget, and expenditures were $76 million, or 47% of the original budget. With supplemental expenditures previously approved by council and recommended mid-year budget adjustments, the proposed mid-year budget is balanced, with revenue and expenditure budgets of $162.5 million and a projected year-end surplus of $30,000. Tonight, we're recommending a few mid-year budget adjustments. We're proposing a $1.9 million increase in general fund revenue, driven by higher than anticipated interest earnings. We're also recommending a $180,000 adjustment to general fund expenditures, including $42,000 for recreation, safety training and programming, and $138,000 as a one-time allocation for hearing examiner services related to parking. This will allow us to maintain these services while we complete a request for proposal process to secure more cost-effective services in the future. We also have some minor adjustments proposed for the Proposition A and parking improvement funds detailed in Attachment A to the staff report. As a recap, Council has already approved supplemental expenditures of $1.7 million for public safety technology, Halloween Carnival production costs and a haunted trolley, local business marketing support, the Women's Freedom Festival, an outdoor ice skating rink, and additional funds for special council programs. This chart provides a helpful comparison showing prior year actuals, the original FY25 budget, and our proposed mid-year budget, highlighted in blue. The proposed mid-year revenue budget of $162.5 million is $1.9 million higher than last year's actuals. This is primarily due to the reinstatement of business tax certificate renewal fees and some conservative budgeting for revenues like hotel taxes and city permit revenues. The proposed mid-year expenditure budget of $162.5 million is $15.4 million higher than last year's actuals. This difference reflects the $6.4 million in savings we realized in FY24, as well as new expenditures included in the FY25 budget to support the city's priority areas in areas like financial stability, community safety, infrastructure development, community services, arts and culture, and community engagement. With the recommended adjustments, we're projecting a balanced budget, and any excess revenues will be allocated to reserves and our capital program. Moving on to organizational changes, reflecting Council's direction to consolidate staff and the billboard program within the Community Development Department, we're recommending 3 new positions: a senior planner, a project development administrator, and an administrative specialist. Additionally, HR is recommending a reclassification of an engineering position from traffic management program specialist to assistant engineer. Funding for these changes will be included in the proposed FY26 budget. Finally, let me point out a few things. The attachments to the staff report. Attachment A details the approved and proposed budget adjustments for the general fund, as well as minor adjustments to the Prop A and parking improvement funds. Attachment B outlines our departmental work plan priorities, which are key initiatives and ongoing programs developed as part of the FY25 and 26 two-year budget. It also shows our progress so far in FY25. Attachment C provides an overview of the budget schedule. Looking ahead, we'll continue to monitor economic conditions and ensure the long-term financial health of the city. Planning for the next budget process, the second-year update, starts now. There will be several opportunities for input throughout the process, with 2 meetings of the Finance and Budget Subcommittee and 2 meetings with City Council, a receive and file item in May, and the FY26 budget adoption in June. Thank you. That completes the report for this evening, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you both so much. Which of my colleagues would like to begin comments? And we do have one public commenter so far. Should we take that first, and then we'll come back? Okay, great. Kevin Burton, have you signed up to speak? Anybody else would like to speak? Get your slips in.
Good evening, Council. I'm Kevin Burton, a resident of West Hollywood, and I'm with a group of community emergency response team members here in West Hollywood, WehoTV. I know this is about just an update of the budget, but I think it's a good opportunity to start thinking about next year's budget. I want to comment on emergency communications, which are touched on in the work plan of the Community Safety Department, where they say they're going to work on expanding the Nixle program, where you can receive email from the city or the sheriff's department during an emergency. That's all very good. That's one of many channels the city can use. But it was obvious listening to a discussion among yourselves, comments from the public, and the same occurred at the Public Safety Commission, that many people in the city did not know what was going on the night of the Runyon Canyon Sunset Fire, and just did not pay attention to the channels the city was using. So I'd like to suggest that the city resume a program it used to have. Perhaps Council Member Heilman remembers, the city had emergency sirens in Plummer Park, West Hollywood Park. And I think those should be considered for next year's budget. And the sirens of yesteryear are not those of this year, because many cities, Sierra Madre, Rolling Hills, especially Beverly Hills, use modern sirens, which each can be individually activated. Not only do they siren, but they broadcast messages. What is the siren about? Where can you go to get information? So I would suggest you seriously consider that. And speaking of information about emergencies, our website, WehoResearch.org, focuses on information about West Hollywood during emergencies, and also links to the city's own emergency preparedness web pages. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to us. Which of my colleagues would like to begin? Vice Mayor Heilman, looks like you're preparing.
My only comment is thank you for the presentation, and I support the revisions that you've made. They all make sense to me, and I look forward to working with the mayor on the upcoming budget.
We get started very soon. Councilmember Erickson, did you have comments?
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you, Kevin. I saw that public comment was that you that did that public comment? Well, someone did a public comment about sirens, and as someone who lives next to Plummer Park, I don't know if I would know a nuke was falling or something was happening, and I would be scared to hide underneath a table or something like that if I heard a siren, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you very much, Christine and David and staff for putting this together. A couple of questions, and I'll get into my comments, and I'll do that all at once. How much did the offset of the business tax application cost or impact the city's budget? Is there a dollar amount?
I think, I don't have the exact number with me right now.
You can rough it.
We had anticipated it was going to be about $2 million we reduced the budget for.
And we did that this last year, but didn't we do it the following year, the previous year to that, or some version of that?
Yeah, we've had 2 rounds of it. One initially during COVID, the early part of COVID, and then we did it again this past year as businesses were still being impacted.
Yeah, I think definitely our businesses are still being impacted in some way. I think it's a small gesture of goodwill that we can continue to look at and explore if my colleagues would be interested in that to help our businesses out. It is a nominal amount per business and how you're registering, but every dollar helps that we can give to our business community. So if that's something my colleagues be willing to explore, or I guess I can just give direction if that's possible, I would be really interested in seeing what that looks like in our budget. In regards to the tax that was passed by the voters this year, David, that comes into effect when and how much is that estimated to bring in again?
We're talking about the city tax?
Yeah.
I do not, Christine.
Like the 1/3 of a third cent tax that we passed overwhelmingly this past year.
Yes, that was Measure WH, and it did pass in November, and it is a contingency tax, so it only comes into effect if another regional entity attempts to place a tax measure that impacts our local cap. And if it did go into effect, we estimate it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $7 million per year.
Great. And are we expecting a ballot measure from the county to do that, I believe?
That is up in the air.
That's what... No, it's not Measure A, but...
Yeah, Measure A passed. Was not subject to the cap. And so it did not trigger Measure WH, the city's tax. Right now, that tax is active and sitting in the wings. We are not collecting any revenue because there hasn't been a trigger event.
And the soonest that could be is 2026. It would have to be a next regular election.
So we wait and see. Wonderful. Because I was wondering about that because I didn't know if it had triggered it yet, so that's helpful information and clarity. In regards to the budget presentation for how we receive it in June, I know there's a number of infrastructure projects that have really high dollar amounts associated with them. I know that we have a memo and things about major development project updates, but I know some of these projects are going to cost significant investments in our budget in the coming 5, 10, 15 years. If there's a way specifically that we could see how the city is paying for that. I know we've talked about bonds and we've done bonds before. That would be helpful to see how then we can prioritize certain infrastructure projects for the dollar amounts that are there. Specifically, I'm looking at the CARB grant with some of the projects that are happening on our streets. I know that helps pay for and offset some costs. So what is the dollar amount there? Additionally, in the next 1 to 2 years, I believe we'll be dealing with the full renovation and amazing opportunities at our log cabin. And I know our log cabin community, the West Hollywood recovery community, has been asking about rents, and I've spoken with David about this, but if we could nail down on how we would be able to continue to support the recovery community with just landing the plane on how much they're going to have to pay every month. I know that they've initiated their own fundraising efforts, but I would like to address that sooner rather than happen later, just for peace of mind with them. I've spoken with a number of them and I understand those concerns, but something along those lines with our infrastructure projects. And then additionally, because there was a slide in here, and I know we've gone down this road, regarding staffing. Where are and how are we supporting some of our most critical staffing areas? I know that you've added 3 positions with the billboards, projects, which we all approved a couple of meetings ago, but there are some other departments that I think do require some looking at. I'm looking at Nick and Jennifer down here, everyone's favorite floor. The second floor, I do think some more attention to that. I do know Parks and Rec is someone that might be needing some more staffing opportunities to comment on the public commenters around the pools, and then looking at administrative or financial aid assistance on the whatever floor the finance department is on now, but looking at how we're continuing to engage in our bargaining units and our negotiating opportunities there to help support staffing at those levels. I know we don't give direction on staffing. I want to make that very clear so everyone's aware. That's something David will figure out, although we did get into a little bit of a gray area with directing 3 positions from the dais to the city to hire, which are now immediately in the next year's budget. So I think the public and the city can understand the confusion there with, if it's that easy for us to say, you just need more staff, so boom, 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 there it is, right? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have more staff or need more staff, but I want to make sure it's very clear for the public and internally with our staff on how these processes work and where the need and demand is. I have spoken with the bargaining units, I hear their concerns, and I agree with them, and I just want to make sure that we're addressing the critical needs in our amazing City Hall to support the great work that you all are doing, that we all ask you to do more, a lot, and I think about and I look at events and parks and everyone, they're doing a lot more. So those are all my comments. I support this item and I'm looking forward to the continued work, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just have one clarification for the record that our city clerk asked me to make, which is that related to the reclassification of the traffic management program specialist, that is correct in the staff report. It is being proposed to reclass to an assistant engineer, civil engineer within the engineering division. It's not an assistant city engineer. So just wanted to clarify that for the record. And thank you for your comments. I think David did want to respond.
No, I was just going to add that, yes, as part of the budget process for the next year's budget update, we will be having discussions with the budget subcommittee. We always have the departments and divisions submit budget requests based on their needs. We're also doing a classification and compensation study this year right now, currently, that will help inform the city on some of those needs. So there'll be lots of opportunities over the next several months to talk about staffing for the next fiscal year's budget.
Okay. You hear that, Vice Mayor? We have lots of work to do. Councilmember Meister.
So, yeah, in the same vein, I was going to ask or say, how many program changes have occurred since the budget was approved that are scheduled for the current budget year? So how many of our initiatives and program changes have happened that would affect, staffing and other things that haven't been necessarily addressed in this mid-year budget?
Well, I can tell you from a budgeting perspective, in the supplemental expenditures that have been approved at the council level, it looks like we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 items that came through with budget requests. And those are things that are on the work plan and are being implemented expeditiously. We also have items that come in through council and or that are adjusted on an ongoing basis from our executive team, prioritization and reprioritization, and that happens on an ongoing basis. But items from council, I believe there, as I noted, there were, I think 10 to 12. They're noted in attachment A. They're in one of the pages on attachment A. And then there's also, there are also the other items that the city council brings that get added to our kind of daily and monthly look ahead calendars.
Yeah, so I guess my point is just that, how is it affecting staff? Mm-hmm. So, 10 to 12 initiatives can be very, taxing on staff or not. So I think that as we go into our next year's budget, we have to we have to sort of incorporate that possibility so that we're ready for it, as opposed to, putting these through and not having the budget for it to increase staff or whatever else is needed. So that would be my suggestion. And then I just wanted to say that I agreed with Kevin Burton, and I do think that public safety communications have to be looked at, and I think that the emergency sirens and broadcasting system would be well worth its whatever investment it would take.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Heng? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, please respond.
So yes, we are looking at that as part of the response to the wildfires. We have a committee of staff looking at that, and we'll be reporting back on that. We're not looking specifically at the sirens at this point, but that's something that we can consider for next year's budget as we're looking at it. As far as staffing, staffing and priorities and all the new initiatives that we do have. We are looking at coming back in April to have a priorities discussion. We'll get a lot of that from the budget subcommittee, but I think it is important to hear from the full council as we're developing our work plans, because there are a lot of new initiatives and things added during the year. So having a discussion like with everything incorporated together, including those things that have been added over the next year, may be helpful for all of us.
Sounds great. Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Heng.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the report. I know that's very arduous and long, so we all really appreciate the numbers. Speaking of critical need of staff, the 3 new hires, the senior planner position, the project development administrator position, and the administrative specialist 4 position, would you happen to have an idea of when they will be onboarded, as they will be revenue generating?
So this helps to begin the recruitment process. Typically, recruitments can take anywhere from 3 to 4 to 6 months. It just depends on the positions, but we anticipate towards the end of this fiscal year to hopefully have those positions filled or close to filled, so they'll be ready and up and running for the start of the next budget cycle, which starts July.
Thank you. And with regards to the staff, does the city usually promote from within, or are we going to do an open requisition for it?
It depends. We often promote from within. Some of our positions require an internal recruitment first before external. Some positions do not, and we go external, but often hire internally for those as well. So it really just depends, but we always try to promote from within when there are people who have the experience and expertise for the position.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate these 3 new hires. I think the creation of this new billboard unit is going to be vital to generating more revenue for our city and providing more staff to actually carry that work out, the important work. You mentioned that the TOT tax was kind of on a dip. I know they're not here, but on a high level, do you know what Visit West Hollywood is doing to hopefully bring those numbers back up?
That's a great question. Is Laura Byrie here? Laura, do you feel able to answer that question, or would you like us to get a response from Visit West Hollywood? Okay. We're going to see if they can get us a response, but if not, we'll come back and provide one as a memo.
Thank you. And then, when's the last time the city updated its fee schedules? Every couple of years, every year? Every year.
Every year.
Every year there's an item, we look at our fees and there's an item from staff for any updates. And then and I don't know if Annie's here, every 2 to 3 years we actually do a study. And it may be more like 3 to 5 years, we actually do a full study where a consultant comes in and looks at our fees. But generally every year we reevaluate internally like the actual impacts of certain things and the related fees.
Great, thank you.
Do my colleagues have any other questions? I see Vice Mayor with a motion on the table. Did you have any comments to add before we move? Oh, and we got a second. I just wanted to add too, it's a mid-year report, and I'm aware that most of the conversation tonight has been about staff capacity. I know we are great contributors to the workload that staff is constantly dealing with, so I appreciate that and just recognize our responsibility as a council in making sure that the items we're putting forward to are truly reflective of the community's needs at this time. That balance of being a council that so few are in this way that can actually bring items forward are in our agenda, I believe, is what has made us such an amazing city that's so responsive. And I'm deeply aware that we can only accomplish what we can accomplish on behalf of the community if staff's able to accomplish it. So we'll be recognizing that balance as a council. I certainly will, as somebody who brought multiple items together tonight, as we move forward, and just want to reflect and honor our role in the whole conversation as well. So if there's nothing else, I see a motion and a second on the table. Vice Mayor Heilman and I have acknowledged our work to do for the next budget cycle. We're excited for that, and my vote is in. Terrific. Thank you both for the presentation. You too, City Manager David Wilson. We appreciate it, and we can move on to item E2, our update on major development projects. And I don't believe we have a staff presentation or full report for this, but do we? No? Yeah? Oh, he's got something. Okay, great. Maybe we do.
I'm happy to provide an overview.
Yeah.
Short. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Nick Marisich, Director of Community Development, joined by our Assistant Director, Jennifer Alkire, and our Building and Safety Manager, Ben Galan. Item E2 is the quarterly update on the status of major development projects around the city. Back in June of 2023, the council requested to receive these reports, and we've expanded them over time to encompass additional project types, such as those requesting approval under the builder's remedy provisions of state law. And for the first time with this report, a list of standalone billboard projects being proposed under the Sunset Arts and Advertising Program. Attachment A covers major projects and builder's remedy projects, and Attachment B includes a map of these projects. The additional billboard projects are listed in Attachment C and are shown on a map in Attachment D. I know that the first project listed in Attachment A, the Melrose Triangle project, has been a long-standing item of interest, and we do have a significant update with this report on this project. The entitlements for the previously approved project have now expired, and there is no new project that has been proposed by the owner for the site at this time. Given the excavation work that took place on the site, the city has required the applicant to secure the necessary permits to backfill the excavated area and to restore the site in a timely manner. Part of the permitting process requires a pre-construction community meeting to be held, and the applicant, we've been informed, has scheduled that meeting for Wednesday, February 26th. At 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. And the additional information, including the Zoom meeting instructions and access information, has been sent out to adjacent businesses and residents within 200 feet. It also can be found on a website that the owner has set up, which is www.melrose-triangle.com. That's melrose-triangle.com. And the owner has also set up an email address, melrosetriangle@gmail.com, where community members can reach out if they have questions. I'm just showing here a copy of the notice, which they provided to us at the end of last week. Finally, I would like to note that we've submitted a memorandum this afternoon with updated and additional information for attachments A and C, and this is available for the public through the posted online agenda. And thank you to the city clerk team for their assistance in getting that distributed this afternoon. So staff's recommendation is for the council to receive and file this report. We're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Erickson's ready to go.
Thank you. A couple of items around Melrose Triangle. Do you know specifically how long it would be? So the community meetings happen, and then what is a rough timeline?
So the community notice that they've distributed now, or are distributing, says, quote, "It is anticipated that it will take between 6 and 9 months to fill the hole, depending on weather conditions and availability of fill materials."
Okay, so I have two questions to go along with that. Now, I had one actually, but now two. One, Are we going to be making sure that the dirt that they bring in is tested to make sure it's not coming from any potential toxic or environmentally unsafe area? I have been asked by some community members, there's a lot of dirt out there right now, and some of that dirt might be removed from areas that were victims of fires, and who knows what could be going on. But is there a testing requirement to that? And if not, I want to make sure that we add that to whatever goes in there, because I don't want anyways, you get where I'm going. 2, is there a way in which we can collect on any financial bond or anything that we've had there in with them? If we didn't have one, I understand, but 6 to 9 months is unacceptable, in my opinion. Is there an expedited timeline that we can give to them? I mean, I know this seems like reductionist, and I understand I don't have a background in, filling holes in dirt, but like, I did grow up in the Midwest. Like, how long does it take to fill a hole with dirt? I guess, really? I mean, I don't mean to be like joking about it, but like, my niece has filled a hole that she's built in the backyard quicker than I think this possibility. I just don't get it.
I'll ask Ben to respond to some of those questions. I will say that we are anticipating a significant number of truck trips required in order to fully refill the excavated area, and Ben can speak to that more.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councilman Erickson. First question was regarding certification of the infill. So both in the building code and in our requests to the developer, the infill does have to be certified on site before it gets shipped to West Hollywood. Okay. So that's already in play. And regarding the second question, it was regarding how long it's going to take to fill the hole. So that hole is about 270,000 cubic feet, and each dump truck is about 10 cubic feet. So we're going to have about 27,000 trucks coming in to infill that hole. So again, as Director Nick mentioned, it all depends. There's a few factors that play into it. Obviously, the weather. They're not going to be moving dirt in there when it's raining. And also, it's availability of infill. They're going to have to be going outside of the county to find material to bring that in. So the developer has identified 3 sites where they're going to be bringing material into the city. So again, it's between 6 and 9 months.
Great. Is there a deadline that we can place on there as a city to say if it's not done by December 31st, 2025, you now have to pay $10,000 a day or anything like that? I mean, they don't have entitlements on the property anymore, and is there any type of financial penalty that we can apply to them?
We've been working with the city attorney's office to initiate this process, so I would
defer to her.
I would defer to city attorney advice on any possible options with respect to that.
Understood the urgency to get this filled as much as possible. We've, sent them letters. We have them in the plan check process just to get the permits to be able to do the fill. So it's a long, complicated process, and we will put whatever pressures we can on them, both through our legal remedies and through our permits, that we can to get this done as quickly as possible.
Great. I mean, I just think that every tool should be on the table with this aspect. I think, I was council member Land's deputy when this project first was going through. Councilmember Meister, I think you weren't on the council yet. I know Vice Mayor Heilman was, but this had been iteration after iteration. So if it is legally feasible and my colleagues agree, I would like to implement or look at some type of penalty structure for not getting it done in 9 months max, 6 months at the best. I don't know what those possibilities are. Is there a bond on this project? Yeah. What are the requirements for us to collect?
I don't think the amount of the bond was lower than the cost to fill the hole. It was much less than the actual cost to fill the hole. So.
Sure. That's just my only comment on this item, and that's all I have. Thank you very much,
Thank
Mayor.
you. Councilmember Meister.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you say 27,000 trucks?
Approximately, yes.
Oh.
Approximately, yes. Trucks, yes.
Well, trips are trucks. Trips are, each truck is a trip. 27,000? And did it take 27,000 trips to get the get it out?
Yes, it did.
So that's not really included in an environmental impact. Was there an environmental impact report on this?
There was for the original project.
No, I understand that. I'm saying that for this specifically.
This is a slightly different process. It's somewhat of an enforcement measure to get them to fix a condition that they created. So it's going through a building permit process, but it's not going through a normal discretionary planning review process because it's essentially an enforcement matter to get them to fix it.
But shouldn't there be mitigation? I mean, if there are environmental impacts from 27,000 trips that hasn't been accounted for in the original EIR?
Vice Mayor Howland.
Well, I suspect that there were the study of all of the construction trucks that would be going there if it had been built. So I'm sure that the EIR considered not only all of the trucks that were going to be there for the demolition, but then all of the trucks to pour concrete, et cetera. So I'm sure the EIR studied probably well more impacts than this is creating.
Thank you.
And then, did you say that it was 200 feet for the notice or 500 feet?
I believe it's 200 feet. That was what was given to us from the owner representative when we received the notice, but I would defer to our colleagues in neighborhood and business safety who enforce this provision of the code if there's a question as to.
Because shouldn't it be 500 feet? If it's 500 feet for notice of anything, you know, a commission meeting, it seems to me 200 feet barely gets onto Rangeley. I mean, that's not very, how many people were actually noticed or being noticed?
Maybe we could ask Vito Adamitis to join us here for that question. Thank you.
And to confirm, the notice I received included the 200 feet, not 500. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Meister, staff is happy to double check the noticing that was done for the project. Next Wednesday is the first neighborhood outreach meeting, and the notices and postcards are being mailed out. I'm trying to confirm if it was, given the size of the project, that we increased the notification, but we'll confirm that for you.
Okay, because when the project went before council, it was at least a 500-foot notice. 200 feet doesn't even get you barely across Santa Monica Boulevard to the Norma Triangle or that area. So I just think that it should be a 500-foot notice for this because otherwise residents aren't even going to get it.
Understood.
So, and I also would ask that that staff please reach out to, you know, West Hollywood West Residents Association and the Norma Triangle to let them know, in case they haven't already seen or heard, you know, when these meetings are happening, because 27,000 trips are an awful lot of trips. And then separate from the Melrose Triangle, so thank you for that. Separate from the Melrose Triangle, I had asked to have the developer names included in this report, and I specifically asked for it because, as you know, there are some developers that have multiple projects, and I think it's important for the public and for council to be aware of that. So when we look at these and we see that projects are sitting there for 1, 2, 3, 12 years, that when they come back to us to ask for a development agreement or a public benefits project, where they're getting more and more and more over and above our zoning ordinance, that we consider, you know, it's discretionary, that we consider, are they ever going to build anything? And so I think it's really important. That's why, and I thank you for adding the names. The one thing I would say, though, is there are a couple that are like, you know, 8920 Sunset Boulevard LLC. and it's not really the owner's or the developer's name. And this was something that I talked to John Kehoe about, the former community development director or developer, whatever services, development services, that they would collect the actual names of the developer versus just LLC, because that doesn't really tell us anything, because 8500 WH LLC, the same developer could be 80, I'm just making this up, but 8800, Santa Monica Boulevard LLC, and we wouldn't know. So I think it's important for us to have the actual developer's name in addition to whatever the official name is. And then lastly, I would like to ask about construction art fencing. What's happening with that? There are certain projects that are sitting there and not being developed, even though they have their entitlements, but they don't have their construction art fencing yet. So, and just by the way, the Melrose Triangle construction art fencing is not being maintained. But I know that there are other projects that have started, demolition, et cetera. I think actually the one on La Cienega and Santa Monica Boulevard, I don't think I've seen construction art fencing, and they have started work there. So I think it's important that we, follow up on that construction art fencing and make sure that even though they're doing nothing, that, that we get our construction art fence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Meister. Are there any other comments or questions from my colleagues? Vice Mayor Heilman.
Thank you for the update on the projects. I really appreciate it. I share some of the frustration. I know you have frustration. We have frustration that some of these projects haven't been built. Obviously, the financial conditions have changed. Interest rates have changed since some of these projects were approved. Market conditions and market demand has changed, and that's so it's understandable that sometimes projects don't go forward. But I also think that we need to have some kind of strategy as a city, and I think maybe your role is really to process the applications and evaluate them, and maybe we need to be looking at bringing in somebody who has some real estate development expertise, who can, from a city standpoint, help us figure out how to navigate these challenges. Turning to the Melrose Triangle, I hear my colleagues very frustrated, but I also know that I don't really want the hole filled in. I want the project built. And it's not likely going to be built. Obviously, the permits have lapsed. So that means that the hole does need to be filled in until they figure out what's going to be done. I don't want to make it more onerous for them. And, we can widen the noticing to the neighborhood, but the neighbors are the ones saying, we want this hole filled in. It's ugly, it's terrible, it's an eyesore. So I think sometimes we're being a little bit inconsistent in terms of how we deal with these situations. I do think we also have to be realistic that some of our own actions have impacted the ability of some projects to move forward. I've heard from some people that have hotel projects that getting hoteliers to sign off on it is challenging because of the wage ordinance and because of the demand in this area. So it might be helpful for us, as some of these projects are being looked at, to have somebody who can come in and provide us and provide our staff with some expertise, almost from a developer's viewpoint, as opposed to from the staff's viewpoint. And I don't know who that person would be or who that entity would be, but I just think I think we all want these projects to get built, at least the ones we voted for. The ones we voted against, we might be happy they aren't built. But I worry that obviously I think we get played sometimes by developers. I think we, and I think sometimes they come forward with projects to get approval and they don't know themselves whether they can actually be built because they're kind of doing it on spec, hoping that some hotel or some housing developer will partner with them. So anyway, those are my comments, but I really appreciate the update. It gives us greater awareness of where we're at with all these projects.
Councilmember Erickson?
Yes, thank you so much. And I agree with what Vice Mayor Hyman was saying. And then on the flip side is, why aren't certain buildings that are approved being demolished? I look at Robertson Lane continuing to be an eyesore, the old buildings that are just going to be demolished anyways. And I'm wondering why those buildings are just still even there. Why haven't we demolished them? We passed an ordinance. I mean, my understanding is they meet all the requirements. Maybe I'm not hearing other sides of the story, but those buildings should just be demolished and we could add temporary parking for the businesses in that district at this time being, which I believe the developer has offered to do to help offset that the building not being built yet. I think personally some of these buildings might not want to fill in the hole. I totally understand opening up Pandora's box there with having to redo the whole project, but there are projects we're waiting on, and I won't go into depth anymore about them, but why isn't or why haven't the items along Robertson between Melrose and Santa Monica been demolished yet? I know the developers requested it.
I believe with respect to that issue, I don't think we've received a new request from the property owners since the council enacted those changes.
So if they sent you a request tomorrow to demolish the property, would you be okay with that?
We would review it consistent with the code as it exists now, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And they would have to improve the property for parking or something. They couldn't just put dirt.
Yeah. No, I understand there was a dirt conversation before, so I get that. And I would never go against Jennifer. I see her shaking her head. But these are the types of things where I think we could add some benefits to the community. Parking, whatever it needs to be there, space for pride once some of these bigger projects happen in the next few years. So, okay, look for that email.
Thank you. Councilmember Hang.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one quick question. For 9200, I know that since the last council meeting, we gave clear direction to bring it back to the Planning Commission and back to the council. Do we have any movement with the developer? Are they keeping that design or?
Yes, we've had conversations with them and they're coming back with a revised design.
It's very exciting. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments, questions? Terrific. Yeah, that 27,000 trucks number will be sitting in my head all night. But thank you all so much for your work on these updates. I guess I do have questions and understand there's conversations going about our inclusionary zoning ordinance, changes to that. I'm concerned that it's an amazing program and there's costs that get added there. I don't know how realistic that slice of the cost pie is in terms of all the other costs. Underground parking, when we build underground, I know costs rise, and if we're filling holes in the long run anyhow. So I just have so many different things on my mind about what else is contributing to costs, and if we're having honest conversations about that, there's probably a lot of things that we need to be looking at. But that's not for now, it's for later. I appreciate this conversation and thank you all. I think we're all set, we can move forward and there's no need for direction, just lots of conversation, so thank you. We can move on to F, new business, item F1. Right, yes. Request for a commitment letter for a ground lease and authorization to issue a loan from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in the amount of $1 million for development of an affordable housing project at 1057 Crescent Heights Boulevard, and $200,000 for associated plan check fees. Perfect timing.
Good evening, council members. I have a brief presentation if you want it, or if we have questions. I'm seeing.
We've got one comment.
Okay, and I think we also have some public speakers. Maybe.
Oh, you have a public
Okay.
speaker. Great. Tara's here.
So no presentation, just to
No
clarify. Okay, got
presentation.
it.
I think we can allow our public comment speaker to come up first. Tara Baraskis. Is I saying that right? Sorry. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Good evening, Mayor Byers and members of the City Council. My name is Tara Barauskas. I'm the Executive Director of Community Corp. We're very excited to be here to get started with the first step in this exciting affordable housing project at 1047 and 1057 Crescent Heights Boulevard. So just to give you a quick update, we've currently started working on our conceptual drawings with our architect, Koning Eisenberg Architects, and we will be conducting our community outreach in the coming months. So with that, we're hoping that you'll be supportive of this ground lease and loan commitment so that we can keep our project moving. So we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Meister, I believe you had one comment.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question. I just want to make sure that we have something in the commitment letter, like we've done in the past, that there is collaboration and communication with our, with UDAS, with our urban design and architecture studio. Because, especially because this is our property, it's not like it's another, you know, it's somebody else's property. I would like to see that in the letter.
So it's in section 7 of the commitment letter. It's
Well,
the
there you
same
go.
language, so it's architecture design section on page of the commitment letter, which is attachment B. It's the 3rd page, and it's the same language that we've refined. We pulled it from our last project, and I know that specifically we went line by line with the city attorney and I went with you,
Okay.
and we pulled the same language.
Great.
So
Okay.
long as you're comfortable with that, and they've reviewed this as well, and so
Okay.
at this point in time, everybody's comfortable with section 7.
Great, thank you
Great.
so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think we're all set on this item then tonight.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Fantastic. Item F2, F3, F4 went to consent. Oh, F5 did as well. Wow, I think we're on item F6. We do have one public commenter. I know you had questions, comments, Vice Mayor. I believe she's left. She did say it in her comments earlier. So we'll start with you, Vice Mayor. I can present if you'd like anything.
No,
Okay, great.
thank you
No
for bringing this
presentation.
forward. I think it's a great suggestion, and I just have concerns about how the WeHo Loves Locals program existed or how it was implemented last time. Last time we got a poster or a postcard in the mail with no really indication of who it was coming from or what it was about, and it was just WeHo Loves Local, go on a website. I just think it wasn't very effective in terms of getting people to patronize local businesses. So I just wanted to emphasize that, and I'm hoping that as this program is implemented, it'll be implemented in a much different way where we actually are communicating with our residents in a way that will encourage them to patronize local businesses as opposed to what was done last time, which again, and I heard from a number of businesses who said they got no business whatsoever from it. They didn't even know about the program. So
I appreciate that feedback. That's great. Councilmember Meister?
Yeah, I would wonder if we were able to figure out metrics for that last program so that we could see if it did increase or not increase business. I think that would be important, and it would be important for this as well. I actually just wanted to see if my colleagues would be interested in, under this program, to give residents and visitors free parking on Small Business Saturday. One day, you know, let people just come and park wherever, and not park wherever, park at meters for free.
Park right in front of your house is what you're saying.
Park
Yes.
meters for free. They have 2 hours. But park at meters for free and give our small businesses an opportunity to see those people come out.
So-
Yeah, I love that idea. Sorry, Mary,
Go ahead.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
I think, if that's feasible, I'm happy to support it. We love parking. I was just having this conversation. Well, we love parking, not parking minimums, but in my opinion. I was also, when I was passing the lot at Crescent Heights and Santa Monica Boulevard, which Helen made so sure got done so quickly, it's fairly empty. And the reason, I know people want to have other things built there, but if there's any outreach we could specifically do to that community and those businesses too, I don't know if they're aware of it. I know it's a big empty parking lot, but it's another way to promote their abilities to have that be in that busy area too.
Vice Mayor, did you want to make a comment? I was just going to respond.
Well, one, the issue of free parking isn't on our agenda, so I
Yeah.
don't
That's right.
think
Yeah.
we can really address that tonight. I am very skeptical of it, particularly on Saturdays, which are already very popular in West Hollywood. But what we've seen happen, if we're talking about parking meters, that's where people are going to park who are not turnover customers. So if we're talking about doing something in our parking structures, that might be something that we could ask our staff to look at. And so I have concerns about us just doing it tonight. One, it's not on the agenda, and two, we don't know the full impact of it. So I think we should avoid any discussion.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just to bring back to the program as this is, I didn't, invent the WeHo Locals program. It existed, and I think it's a great model that needs to be built on. I know it did give some businesses opportunities to connect, and using that framework that existed already, I thought this gift card program, which as you saw in the staff report, is a program that a number of other cities have run. It was the city of Concord, California, and a conversation I had with a council member last summer that got me really excited about what this opportunity could look like. I knew then that we were in the middle of our economics study that, and soon later learned that the lunchtime hours and what we were experiencing here as a city was that there was a lot of decline in business. And so many of our own residents are people who can better participate in our businesses with maybe a little leg up. And I recognize that many of our residents are living on fixed or limited incomes that often precludes them from being able to participate in the incredible business scene that we have here because of some of that economic divide that does exist in our community. So my hope was in delivering a gift card program that could be sort of the purchase buy-in, and then the city contributes an additional percentage, and that way people have a tab that goes a little bit further at one of our local businesses. So I'm really grateful to Visit West Hollywood for their willingness to be a part of this. I spoke with Tom Keeley last week, grateful for the chamber and their help in getting this out. But as Vice Mayor Hellman said, it's key that our residents know about this. One thing that wasn't included in this, and I believe would be essential as this comes back and gets implemented and goes out to the community, is especially stops at our boards and commissions. I'm thinking about the Older Adults Advisory Board first and foremost, because again, it was sort of targeted with those folks in mind, people who haven't maybe felt that the businesses in our city are accessible to them. And by way of starting there and helping everybody feel like this is a community and a space that you can be a part of, that we can start to invest more deeply into our business community. So that was the mindset I approached this idea with, although it's clearly open to everyone. And I would hope that as this comes back, staff also brings maybe a cap or an investment total that we could put this at. I see that some cities started with like $20,000, and once it reached that threshold, they were able to invest again. I think that'll also help us understand some of the data that we're asking for. What I also understood was that in the gift card model, we're able to actually see which businesses are using that. And so I think it's a good opportunity for businesses to further communicate their services and resources to our residents in new ways too as part of that. So that's not our job as a city to promote businesses, but I hope this helps close the gap and get people connected in new ways. I saw there was another speaker that popped up while I was going. Councilmember Hank, do you want to jump in?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a great item. It's going to support our local businesses. It's, they're suffering. Everyone is suffering. So anything we can do as a council to promote within our city, I think it's a great idea. The card will provide metrics, like you just said, to our local businesses as well in terms of their services. So I'm in full support of this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments? Great, we got a motion on the table. No, it's all great. It's nice other people supporting it. Terrific. Thank you all so much. And great news, that was the last item tonight. Woohoo. We don't have any items on excluded consent. Do we have any final public comments signed up for the evening?
One individual signed up, but they're not in chambers anymore.
Okay, all right. Then we'll move on to council member comments and meeting attendance reports. Who would like to begin? Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Erickson and then over to Councilmember Hang after that.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. In terms of meetings, I attended the subcommittee, ad hoc committee, non-Brown Act committee of the Commission and Advisory Board meetings with Councilmember Meister. I attended the Liability Trust Fund Board and Oversight meeting. I attended the West Side City's COG meeting where I was appointed the voting delegate for the COG to the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission, and congratulations to our own mayor, who is now the vice chair of the West Side City's COG. And then additionally, I know that we are going to be prioritizing some infrastructure updates in the coming meetings, and I just wanted to highlight some facts to make sure that the record is reflective of some things that we've talked about in the past. In terms of paving history, Fountain Avenue was last paved 20 years ago and sealed 4 years ago. Santa Monica, the streetscape was completed in the year 2000. I was a freshman in high school. 60% repaved in the last 3 years. Beverly is a concrete street, only patched since cityhood, meaning 1984. Melrose was paved last year from Croft to San Vicente and only patched from San Vicente to Doheny since cityhood. Major infrastructure improvements. This is something that I would like us to focus on later as we talk about what we should prioritize. Fountain Avenue, no recent major improvements ever in terms of the street. Santa Monica, streetscape project in 2000, bike lanes added from Doheny to Kings Road. Beverly, no major recent improvements. Plans for a streetscape with bike lanes and utility undergrounding are in development. Melrose, a streetscape plan completed from Croft to San Vicente, and the next phase includes San Vicente to Doheny. These are just important information that we should keep on the top of our mind as we talk about how our infrastructure is lagging and outdated, and these are just the facts to support that. Thank you, city staff, for helping provide that information. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Erickson. Councilmember Hang?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report as far as meeting attendance. I just wanted to say that, last week there were signs that were posted in West Hollywood in the Rainbow District that indicated ICE as well as ICE's phone number. I spotted those signs. I reported them immediately to our Director of Community Safety, who then had code compliance, who took swift action to have code compliance walk Santa Monica Boulevard to remove all those signs. Those signs were put up with the intention to intimidate people, to intimidate certain members of our community, and we will not be intimidated here in West Hollywood. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Hang. Councilmember Meister?
Thank you, Mayor. Attendance, I participated in the Joint Policy Committee meeting and SCAG Regional Council meeting. I attended virtually as just a visitor and public speaker, the West Side City's COG meeting. I was wondering if maybe the city manager could answer a question about what's happening with the lighting in West Hollywood Park.
Helen, come up and answer that. I know we've been waiting on the new lights to be installed there.
So just to give you a brief overview, the light bases on all the 41 light structures in the park, we saw deterioration on those light bases, so we removed them for safety. During the last, it's been about a year actually, we've been in conversations with the manufacturer going back and forth on getting replacements. We haven't come to a mutual agreement on what would be a suitable replacement that we would agree that wouldn't deteriorate over time like the initial bases. So we are currently in final discussions with them, and we're looking at other options to move forward. So in the interim, we don't have a solution, but we are looking at possibly either finding a new base or looking at different type of lighting in the park. So we'll be coming back to council in the near future with our options to move forward.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Hellman?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the WeHo Pride Subcommittee. I also attended various community events, including the Winter Sounds. I did have some comments on the Sister Cities program, and I want to thank you and Councilmember Hang for bringing this forward. As you noted, there was a previous initiative to try to establish a Sister Cities relationship. And I've asked staff to try to retrieve the file so you can have access to it, or staff can have access to it. I think it's very important as we move forward with this initiative that we have clear understanding of what our goals are in establishing this. Are we trying to create an economic relationship with tourism and trade? Are we trying to establish more of a political relationship and expressing our alliance with a community that may have similar political leanings or be under attack? Are we trying to establish relationships where we have local torchbearers who could champion this relationship? Part of the reason last time we were unable to move forward, there were people who had different views of what a Sister Cities relationship should be. There were certainly people who were associated with the Visitors Bureau who wanted to have a Sister Cities relationship with Mexico City or a city in Mexico because of the tourist possibility. There were people from the Russian-speaking community who were advocating for communities from their home country, or there's a particular arts district in St. Petersburg that would have been a great partner. Obviously, that's not on the table anymore. And then there were also people who had advocated for the Marais district of Paris because of the high concentration of arts design and the LGBT community. So I hope that as we move forward, there will be some thought about that, and also thought about those within the community who are not part of the city who will be part of this initiative, because it can't just be the city, it's got to also engage the business community and the residents. So those were just my suggestions for thought as we move forward, but I'm very excited about it, and you know, I'll have some free time in 2 years, so I might want to be part of that, yeah. I know, you're just trying to send me away right now. I got your comments earlier.
I do just want to follow that up and say it has been, in my time on council in just the few short years, a real honor and inspiration to be a part of some of the small conversations and delegations that have come to the city, mostly for some of that political purpose. And in the exchanges we've had with the Australian Consul General, you know, I know that they're looking to invite us as a Pride speaker in the month of June to go speak at their Pride event. That's a place where we have multiple sort of relationships. So there's just so many different opportunities there. And with the Olympics coming and the Pride House coming, it felt all the more important to really plant this seed. And as you said, sort of build intention to what we're really trying to do. So just thank you, and thanks for sharing the history. It's really important, and I'm looking forward to growing this in a bigger way. I wanted to, and I just got a note that we do have the old staff reports, so we'll get them shared very soon. Thank you so much. I'll continue with my attendance and then wrap up with my comments. My meeting attendance included the National League of Cities Transportation Advocacy meeting, which was a very frustrating look at how things are changing very rapidly in relationship to the cities. And I also attended the LGBTQ elected leaders, local elected leaders meeting, the West Hollywood Pride Subcommittee meeting. It's crazy we're back planning again for this year. The Metro Service Council meeting and the LA County City Selection Committee meeting, as well as the West Side City COG meeting, where, as Councilmember Erickson said, I was elected vice chair, very excited to serve that term and represent our city in that capacity. I was a speaker at Troy Masters Celebration of Life this past week and was just so honored to reflect the many stories and relationships that Troy shared with our city and the many staff members and members of this council whose lives he touched. So just really a special night in celebration of a very incredible human who we all miss very deeply. I want to give my thanks to the residents of the Domain Apartments for hosting my first meet and greet. There'll be more to come. Looking forward to continuing to connect with folks in the community in that capacity. And just in terms of my comments, I have to say I was very moved by the equity statement read earlier tonight and our city's ongoing commitment, especially in these times, to the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it happened very quickly, but we did approve 2 items tonight, one in recognition of Juneteenth with an expanded budget for that Social Justice Advisory Board to get to work with. We're very excited to see what happens there, as well as new programming for Black History Month in 2026 brought with my Councilmember Erickson, so thank you for that idea. Just want to reflect how important it is, these continued investments, and just thank the city for our ongoing commitment to this work. I want to also recognize that the two of the adjournments I read tonight for the transgender community members who were killed because of who they are were requests that I received from several members of the community. I had multiple people reaching out requesting that both of those individuals be recognized, and I deeply appreciate the recognition of our city's role in voicing and naming and uplifting those individuals and their stories in this way, and we'll continue to be here to do that work. I want to just also recognize, as Councilmember Haynes said, the ICE signs. We were quick to respond and spent a long day of media responses and making sure that people knew what our city is truly all about, the sanctuary city that we have long been. I look forward to the Know Your Rights campaign information that'll come out, and in the meantime, encourage people to be more familiar with your rights and share this information. The County Office of Immigration has an incredible resource page. They're also beginning to host events throughout the communities, specifically starting in East LA, but they're making their way around the county, and I believe it's really important that all of us take time to understand our rights and help empower those around us with that full information. And just finally, I said it really quickly at the end in the last item on the WeHo Locals program, but I also just would be remiss if I didn't thank Laura and Paolo specifically for your help, both in researching this initiative early on, but also spurring my own enthusiasm and excitement for this program. It really takes all of us, and I just want to thank you both and recognize your hard work behind the scenes in support of our business community. So unless there's anything else, I said a lot to wrap it up. I think we're all set. Okay, so we have one more special meeting adjournment. We are adjourning this City Council meeting to this joint study session of the City Council and Planning Commission, a very exciting meeting, which will take place here Monday, February 24th at 6 p.m. at the West Hollywood Park Public Meeting Room, Council Chambers. We'll see you all back then. Thank you.